We live in times of reconciliation in cycling, dear friends. How nice it was to see the memorial ride at the Tour of Austria in honour of André Drege, a tribute that the guys from the Tour de Titema, very close to the Coupe Repsol team, have been able to record for us, and which showed a whole peloton united, and, for once, a sympathetic race organiser, able to offset a loss of money against honouring the memory of a young man who died working. And all because of a damn flat tyre on his rear wheel at 90 kilometres per hour, while he was trying to fulfil his dreams. Once again, rest in peace, André. You will never be forgotten. In other news, low-cost Lance was once again showing his charitable side. After helping Jan Ullrich off drugs, he's now trying to get alcoholic Wiggins out of poverty by hiring him for his podcast. A good few sovs in the back bin of Sir Brad. A man who, not so long ago, was full of criticism for his young teammates for wearing Livestrong bracelets, associated with a certain dirty-doped rider. We doubt it will happen, as they are waiting for the mummy of man to join their team, but from here we urge Johan and George and all those who pass by the We Do stable to ask Brad about Dr. Freeman or Dr. Linders, or the dozens of cyclists removed from the team in strange circumstances, or even go further back and ask about the doped hipster's tricks which helped to turn him from a pistard to a super climber. However, it's not all joy and goodness and sweetness and light in this sport, for we have seen two of the biggest monsters of the Tour de France, focusing Evenepoel and the Slovenian Poggi, bullying another monster, the Danish anchovy, and this after the best stage of the Tour de France so far. If you want more cycling content, don't hesitate to subscribe to this channel right now, because the show is starting. The Troyes stage was marked on the map mainly for including 14 sections with the terrain that you can see in the images. Terrain that can generate punctures and crashes and other paraphernalia that Prudhomme wants to include to try to sell the Tour to countries that barely know what a bicycle is. And it all made absolutely no difference, despite the clear orographic difficulties and the white, unpaved roads. It was the second fastest online stage so far in the Tour, almost 46 kilometres per hour on average. Tom Pidcock, the British multi-tool who finished second in Troyes, claimed to have done 280 watts on average over 4 hours and 20 minutes. Maybe he's lying. Maybe he's ignorant. Maybe he's taking us all for fools. We don't really know. But the reality for a guy of 57 kilos like him, well, it must be 5 watts per kilo or more. On average. We'd say this was nonsense, but it was corroborated by his unspeakable breakaway partner Derek G, who uploaded to Strava his data, showing 359 watts on average during a stage where he got all that air and white powder all over his face, which visibly thrilled Sylvain Adams. G was incredibly motivated, for he wanted to be able to dedicate the victory to Ruby West, his girlfriend who's ever present at the races and who had her birthday yesterday, but it was not to be. The family story of the day was taken by Anthony Tergis of Europcar, who won brilliantly in Troyes with all those watts of power, and he dedicated it to his brother, who retired from cycling due to heart problems, a condition that seems to afflict so many healthy elite athletes. And therefore, by extension, we can say that Antony's dedication was also to Vasil Kirienka, Beniat Inchausti or Fabio Aru, among others. Thank you, Tergis, for honouring these cycling legends with your ride. However, drama and controversy were not far behind. The Danish anchovy suffered a puncture midway through the stage and had to ride for the rest of the day on Jan Tratnik's bike, which served to make his biggest rivals want to tickle Vingegaard's scales. First, it was Urska Zigard's boyfriend who tried rather timidly on the descent of a climb 90 kilometres from the finish. But then, with 75k to go, enter focusing Evenepoel on his terrain, a place where he should attack, and he launched a demolition effort, possibly the most powerful in terms of watts of this year's Tour, one which left the yellow jersey and Finn number 1 of this Grand Boucle stiff for moments. When the alien moved, the anchovy went after him, and they caught up, not without effort, but they caught up the Pizza Hut delivery boy. The white jersey and the yellow jersey quickly understood each other, and they worked together, and they could have caught up with the breakaway groups without too much extra effort. But they saw that the anchovy wasn't moving. He was sticking to them like a suckerfish. And so the criticism began from the irascible Evenepoel, whose daily dose of focusing hadn't calmed him down. He was shaking his head, constantly shaking his head, and so they were caught by the bunch. But the show continued towards the end of the stage. Poggi launched one more attack on the final unpaved section, and Jonas, much lighter, was unable to follow. However, he was helped by the Gregario of Gregarios, a specialist on this terrain, Matteo Jorgensen. And although focusing was behind because of a mechanical problem, they still didn't want to collaborate with the Saunier Duval rider. And so they all arrived at the finish line together, and then the criticism began. The Slovenian, claiming that the anchovy is afraid of him, just when it seemed by his body language throughout this tour that it was the other way around, he said that Rabobank only were willing to follow him. And that's true. After all, the anchovy is not going to take his flippers out for just anyone. Now, Focusing, always much more aggressive in his statements, said that the anchovy doesn't have the balls to compete, not realising that Jonas is the closest thing to Lance that we've seen in cycling. First and second classified in this tour crossed the finish line talking, frustrated, possibly scheming on how to hurt the anchovy, even considering a change in animal category, calling him a Danish tick. They only failed to say that they know the truth. They only failed to say that he's doped to the gills, but that would be a big mistake, friends. Bullying is always a big mistake. It would also be a big mistake not to subscribe to our soccer channel, Failed Sharks. If we reach 1,000 subscribers, we will start spilling the beans on all the dirty cases of doping in that filthy sports business. Now, first of all, it is obvious that Remco and Poggi were in an aggressive mood that day. The Belgian only had a Mikel Landa who could do little in this field, despite how greatly improved he is, and a racist Moscon who always looks out for himself first. The Slovenian only had at his side a tired Polit and his best friend Wellens, who's far from his best form, because the rest of his teammates, well, they look more like rivals than friends. Now, Jonas does have a team, and everyone, absolutely everyone, is with him. The Belgian bots and the Gregario of Gregarios were the most outstanding, but without Tratnik's quick bike change or the help of a much-improved Laporte on his best day of the season so far, Jonas could not have reached the wheel of those two monsters. It makes sense that Poggi, an inveterate party animal, or Evenepoel, a guy who likes to party, they've got those rock star attitude that the fans love so much. Jonas, he's a married anchovy whose wife is pregnant, and he said he's not going to attend the Vuelta a España 2024, not for fear of getting caught doping, no, but to attend the birth of his new baby. To attend the birth of his child. That tells you what kind of person we're talking about. A family-friendly cyclist, surrounded by other family riders, like the Belgian bot or Tish Benoot. Now, Danny Nelissen, the doped former Rabobank rider and current Dutch TV commentator, explained it very well. Vingegaard did what he had to do. He relied on his team, and he wasn't worried about spending more energy than absolutely necessary on terrain that's favourable for his rival Poggi, his only rival. Nelissen suggests, implies that they don't take Focusing seriously as a rival. We partly understand that. The Belgian has only one stage left to make more of a difference to the anchovy and the alien on his home ground. That's Wednesday's stage. From there on, we enter a very different dimension, the terrain of the anchovy, where the lightest ones can take full advantage, the terrain that our Dane is thinking of to try to turn the tables. We can't criticise the anchovy for holding on to its trump options. Many side with the bully and don't want him to win. I can only cite a historical precedent and say that Ferrari's client, Nibali, and the White Kenyan came back from deficits of many, many minutes to win a Grand Tour in the final days, and that wasn't too long ago. Do you think the anchovy is not going to prepare well on this rest day and the following rest day next week? Let us know in the comments if you're on the side of the anchovy or Focusing on the alien. And while you're here, stop by that video on the screen. You know you will love it.